The peace treaty was signed on neutral ground, a space station operated by the Galactic Council. The Council representatives looked uncomfortable. They'd ignored humanity 400 years ago. Now humanity was forcing the mighty Krell Dominion to surrender. Martin represented humanity at the signing. He was old now, his hair white, but his eyes were sharp. Across the table sat Voth, the Krell Supreme Commander. The alien looked tired, defeated. "Your people fought well," Voth said quietly. "We underestimated you." "You did more than that," Martin replied. "You tried to destroy us. You thought scattering us across the galaxy would end humanity. Instead, it made us stronger." Voth's mandibles clicked in what might have been agreement. A lesson we learned too late. The treaty was formal and clear. The Krell would withdraw from all former human territories within 1 year. They would pay reparations in ships, technology, and resources. Most importantly, they would recognize humanity's right to exist as an independent power. After the signing, a Galactic Council representative approached Martin. "We're glad this conflict is resolved. We hope humanity will consider rejoining the Council." Martin looked at the representative for a long moment. "Where were you when we needed help? When the Krell were beating our people in the streets? When they destroyed Earth?" "The situation was complicated." "No, it wasn't. You were cowards. You let a strong species abuse a weak one because you didn't want trouble." Martin turned away. "Humanity doesn't need the Council anymore. We've learned to stand alone." The representative tried to protest, but Martin was already leaving. The real work began after the treaty. Reclaiming Earth. The planet had been devastated 400 years ago. Krell bombardment had destroyed cities, poisoned oceans, and killed billions. For centuries, Earth had been a dead world, remembered only in stories. Megan was among the first to land on the surface. She stepped off her transport ship onto soil her ancestors had walked. Around her, the ruins of an ancient city stretched toward the horizon. Trees and vines had reclaimed the buildings. Nature was slowly healing the scars. "This is Earth," she whispered. She'd heard about it all her life, but seeing it was different. This place was real. Her species had come from here. A team of engineers worked nearby, setting up equipment to test the air and soil. Earth could be made livable again, but it would take decades of work. "Are we going to rebuild the cities?" someone asked. Megan shook her head. "I don't think so. Not like they were. Earth won't be the center of humanity anymore. It's a memorial now, a reminder of what we lost and what we survived." Across the galaxy, human colonies were coming out of hiding. 47 colonies became 60, then 80, then over 100. Ships that had been running for 400 years finally stopped. Settlers who'd lived underground for generations saw sunlight. Children who'd never known peace learned what it felt like to live without fear. On Haven, workers built a massive monument in the central chamber. It listed the names of every human who died in the First War. The list was long, thousands upon thousands of names carved into stone. At the bottom, they added an inscription that Martin had written. "They scattered us. They thought we were broken. They were wrong." The monument became a place of pilgrimage. Humans from every colony came to see it, to remember, to honor those who died. But Haven didn't become humanity's capital. Neither did any other colony. The scattered humans had learned their lesson well. Never again would they centralize everything in one place. Instead, they formed a loose federation. Each colony remained independent, governing itself, making its own decisions. But they agreed to help each other, to share technology, to maintain a common defense. "We're stronger this way," Martin explained to a gathering of colony leaders. "The Krell couldn't destroy us because we weren't all in one place. We should never change that." The galaxy watched humanity's resurgence with mixed feelings. Some species admired the comeback. Others feared it. Humanity had gone from extinct to powerful in just a few years. The Galactic Council tried to reassert influence. They sent ambassadors to the major human colonies, offering trade deals and political alliances. Most colonies politely declined. A few agreed to limited partnerships, but none trusted the Council like old Earth had. That trust had been broken 400 years ago. On Defiance Station, now the largest shipyard in human space, Jake watched the construction of a new kind of vessel. Not warships this time, but colony ships. Huge vessels designed to carry thousands of people to new worlds. "Are we still expanding?" a young engineer asked him. Jake nodded. "Always. We learned that lesson the hard way." A species that stays in one place can be destroyed. A species that keeps spreading becomes impossible to kill. New colonies launched every month. Some went to systems near existing settlements. Others traveled far to the edge of the galaxy and beyond. Humanity was scattering again, but this time by choice. On a jungle world in a distant sector, settlers from the original jungle colony established a new home. They brought with them the stealth techniques and survival skills that had kept their ancestors hidden for 3 centuries. Why live on a jungle world when we could pick somewhere easier? A young settler asked. An elder smiled. Because easy makes you weak, hard makes you strong. Our ancestors survived because they learned to thrive in difficult places. We honor them by doing the same. Earth became what Megan had predicted, a memorial world. The colonies rebuilt some structures, but most of the planet was left to nature. Humans could visit, could walk the ground their ancestors walked, but few chose to live there permanently. A museum was built near the ruins of the old United Nations building. It told humanity's story from the beginning. The arrival of the Krell, the occupation, the rebellion, the scattering, the long silence, the return. School children from across the Federation visited the museum. They saw artifacts from before the war. They learned about the people who'd fought and died. They understood the price of freedom. One exhibit showed a list of names: Daniel Hayes, Lisa Brennan, Frank Cooper, Amy Brooks, Kate Morrison, Peter Walsh, Greg Fuller, Sophie Fuller, Claire Stevens, Jake Palmer, Holly Price, hundreds more. These were real people, teachers told the children. They lived. They fought. They survived. Remember them. The Krell Dominion never recovered its former power. Other species under Krell rule saw humanity's success and rose up themselves. Within a generation, the Dominion had shrunk to a fraction of its former size. Voth lived long enough to see his empire crumble. In his final years, he wrote a book about the Krell-Human War. The last chapter was called The Mistake. In it, he wrote, "We thought scattering them would destroy them. We believed that a species without a homeworld, without unity, without central leadership could not survive. We were wrong. Humanity showed us that strength comes not from concentration, but from distribution. You cannot kill what you cannot catch. You cannot destroy what exists everywhere. Our attempt to eliminate humanity made them indestructible." The book became required reading in Krell military academies, a warning to future generations. 50 years after the treaty, Martin died peacefully on Haven. He was 93 years old. His funeral was attended by representatives from over 200 human colonies. His grandson, also named Martin, gave the eulogy. "My grandfather used to say that the scattering was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. We didn't believe him at first. How could something so terrible be good?" Young Martin looked at the assembled crowd. But he was right. The scattering forced us to adapt, to survive in impossible conditions, to become more than we were. Earth humanity was soft, comfortable, dependent on central government. Scattered humanity became hard, resourceful, independent. He held up an old photograph of Claire, Martin's grandmother. "This woman gave us the technology to reunite. But she never wanted us to become like old Earth. She wanted us to stay scattered, to remain distributed, to be impossible to destroy." He looked at the crowd again. "That's who we are now. We're not one nation or one world. We're 1,000 colonies spreading across the galaxy. You can destroy one of us, 10 of us, even 100, but you can't destroy all of us. We're everywhere. We're nowhere. We're humanity," the crowd agreed. That was the new human philosophy. Never centralize. Never concentrate. Stay scattered and stay strong. 100 years after the treaty, humanity had 300 colonies spread across the galaxy. Each was different. Some were high-tech industrial worlds. Others were agricultural settlements. A few remained hidden, maintaining the old ways of stealth and survival just in case. Earth's population stabilized at about 10 million, mostly caretakers and historians. It was enough to maintain the memorials and museums, but not enough to make Earth strategically important again. Megan, now ancient, returned to Earth one final time before she died. She stood in front of the monument listing the dead from the First War. "We did it," she whispered to the names carved in stone. "We survived. We came back. We won." A young girl approached her. "Are you one of the heroes from the war?" Megan laughed. "I'm no hero, child. I just did my part. We all did our parts. My teacher says we should remember the scattering. Your teacher is wise. Megan knelt down to look at the girl. Remember this. The Krell thought they could break us by scattering us, but they didn't understand humans. We don't break. 300 years passed. For the Krell Dominion, it was a time of peace and growth. They expanded into new territories. They conquered new species. They grew rich and comfortable. Humanity became a story they told young Krell soldiers, a warning about what happened to species that resisted. But in the forgotten corners of the galaxy, humanity was not dead. On the frozen moon where Helen's colony ship had landed, the underground city of Haven grew deeper every year. What started as simple tunnels became vast chambers carved from ice and rock. By the 100th year, 5,000 humans lived there. By the 200th year, 50,000, a young woman named Claire stood in the engineering bay, looking at old computer files from before the war. She was studying physics, trying to understand theories that pre-war humanity never had time to develop. "What are you looking at?" her teacher asked. "Files about faster-than-light travel," Claire said. "The old way used jump gates that the Krell control. But these files mention other possibilities. Different ways to move through space, and those are just theories. They never worked, because nobody had time to try. We were too busy running." Claire looked at her teacher. "But we have time now. We have 300 years of time." She spent the next 20 years following those old theories, testing ideas, building prototypes, failing over and over. But slowly she made progress. Far away on an asteroid hidden in a dense field of rocks, the descendants of Daniel's refugees had built something different. They called their home Defiant Station, and it was a shipyard. Commander Jake stood in the construction bay watching workers assemble the first warship built by post-war humanity. It was smaller than the old military ships. The design was different, cruder, but it was theirs. "How long until it's ready?" Jake asked the construction chief. 3 months, maybe 4, Jake nodded. The ship wouldn't match Krell technology. Not yet, but it was a start. They'd build one ship, learn from it, build a better one. Give them a few more generations and they'd have a real fleet. On a jungle world near the galaxy's core, another group of humans lived in tree houses hidden under thick canopy. They'd learned to survive without technology the Krell could detect. No metal structures, no engine signatures, nothing that would show up on orbital scans. A scout named Holly climbed down from her observation post. She'd been watching the sky for weeks. This was the second time in 2 years she'd seen Krell ships pass nearby. "They're getting closer," Holly told the village council. "Eventually they'll find us. Then what do?" Someone asked. "We prepare, we train. We get ready to either fight or run." The jungle world humans had no ships, no weapons beyond simple tools. But they were experts at hiding, at moving without being seen, at surviving in harsh conditions. Those skills would matter someday. Across the scattered colonies, humanity developed in isolation. Each group adapted to their environment. Each created their own culture, their own technology, their own way of life. But they all kept the memories alive. Children grew up hearing stories about Earth, about the colonies, about the war and what the Krell had done. The stories changed slightly with each telling, details shifting over generations, but the core remained the same. Humans had been wronged. Humans had scattered. Humans would return someday. In Haven's underground city, Claire finally succeeded. Her prototype engine didn't use the old jump gate network. It created its own path through space, opening doorways that closed behind it. The technology was different from anything the Krell used. "It works," Claire told the city council, her hands shaking with excitement. "We can travel without using their gates. We can go anywhere and they won't see us coming." The council members looked at the data, not fully understanding but trusting Claire's expertise. "What does this mean?" one of them asked. "It means we're not trapped anymore. It means we can start looking for other human colonies." "You think there are others?" Claire smiled. The Krell scattered thousands of ships. Even if most died, some must have survived. "They're out there somewhere. We can find them." The first search ship left Haven 2 years later. It was small, crewed by 6 people equipped with Claire's new engine. They searched for signs of human settlement, looking for energy signatures, radio signals, anything that might indicate survivors. It took them 4 months to find the first one, the Ice Moon civilization. The descendants of Amy's survivors had built their own hidden colony. When Claire's ship appeared, both groups thought they were seeing ghosts. There are more of us, the Ice Moon commander breathed, staring at the Haven ship on his sensors. We're not alone. The reunion was emotional. People cried. They shared stories. They showed each other what they'd built over 3 centuries. And they realized something important. If they'd found each other by accident, there must be more colonies out there. We need to search systematically, Claire said. Use old communication frequencies. Leave markers that only humans would recognize. Build a network. The search expanded. Both colonies sent out scout ships. They found a colony living inside an old generation ship that had never stopped moving. They found an underwater settlement on an ocean world where humans had adapted to marine life. They found the jungle world where Holly's people lived in the trees. Each discovery brought new capabilities. The Ice Moon had manufacturing. Haven had advanced physics. The jungle world had perfected stealth. The ocean colony had biological engineering. The generation ship carried complete databases of old human knowledge. Within 50 years, 47 human colonies had made contact. They formed a loose network, sharing information and technology while remaining independent. They'd learned from their mistake. Never again would they put all humans in one place where an enemy could destroy them. In a laboratory deep in Haven's underground city, an elderly Claire worked on her final project. The new faster-than-light engine was good, but she wanted to make it better, faster, more efficient, harder to detect. Her grandson, a young physicist named Martin, helped her with the calculations. "Why do we need better engines, grandmother?" Martin asked. "We found each other. We're safe." Claire looked at him with sharp eyes despite her age. "Because someday we're going back. And when we do, we need every advantage. Going back where? Home, to Earth, to the colonies. To take back what the Krell stole." Martin had never seen Earth. Neither had his parents. Earth was just a story to him, a place from old tales. But his grandmother spoke of it like it was real, like it mattered. "Is revenge worth it?" Martin asked quietly. "This isn't revenge. This is justice. The Krell need to learn that you can't do what they did. You can't crush a species and expect them to stay down forever." On Defiance Station, Jake watched the 100th ship roll out of the construction bay. They were getting good at this now. Each ship was better than the last. Faster, stronger, more advanced. But they weren't just building ships. They were training crews, teaching young people how to fight, how to pilot, how to work together, creating a military force that hadn't existed for 300 years. "When do we strike?" a young pilot named Megan asked. She was descended from Holly's Jungle World people, but she'd come to Defiance Station to learn how to fly. "Not yet," Jake said. "We're not ready. We need more ships, better weapons, perfect coordination between all the colonies." "How long?" "Another generation. Maybe 2. We've waited 300 years. We can wait a little longer to do this right." The colonies continued sharing technology. Claire's faster-than-light engines spread to every settlement. Defiance Station's shipbuilding techniques were copied and improved. The jungle world's stealth technology was adapted for spacecraft. The ocean colony's biological engineering created better life support systems. Slowly, piece by piece, humanity rebuilt itself. Not as one unified civilization, but as a network of independent groups with a common purpose. They sent scouts into Krell space, using the new stealth technology to observe without being detected. They mapped Krell territories. They identified important targets. They learned everything about their enemy. The Krell never noticed. Why would they? Humanity was extinct, scattered, gone. The Krell sensors weren't even looking for human signatures anymore. In the shadows, humanity watched and learned and prepared. On Haven, Claire died at age 97. Her funeral was attended by representatives from all 47 colonies. They came to honor the woman who'd given them the means to reunite. Martin gave the eulogy. "My grandmother used to say that the Krell made a mistake. They thought scattering us would break us, but it only made us harder to destroy. We spread across the galaxy like seeds in the wind, and now we've taken root everywhere." He held up a small device, Claire's final prototype. "She finished this last month. It's the fastest, most efficient, faster-than-light engine ever built. With this, we can strike anywhere in the galaxy and be gone before the Krell know we were there." He looked at the assembled representatives. "She also said we needed to be patient, that we should wait until we were ready. I think we're almost ready now." The representatives agreed. Word went back to their colonies. Increase ship production. Train more pilots. Prepare for mobilization. On Defiance Station, the 300th ship launched. Jake was old now, but he stood in the observation deck watching it fly. Beside him stood Megan, now a squadron commander with 50 pilots under her command. The first strike happened on a quiet morning in Krell space. A patrol of 3 Krell ships was doing routine checks near a dead system. They'd done this run 1,000 times. Nothing ever happened here. Space was empty, cold, boring. Then the ships simply vanished. No distress calls, no explosion signatures, no debris. One moment they were there on the tracking screens. The next moment they were gone. Krell Command sent another patrol to investigate. That patrol found nothing. Empty space. No sign of what happened to the first ships. The second patrol started to leave. Then they vanished too. This time Command took it seriously. They sent a full battle group, 10 ships with heavy weapons and advanced sensors. The battle group searched the system for 3 days. They found nothing. On the 4th day, they prepared to leave. That's when human ships appeared. They came from nowhere, materializing out of empty space using Claire's faster-than-light engines. 6 sleek vessels with stealth coating that made them nearly invisible. Before the Krell could react, missiles launched. The battle lasted 90 seconds. All 10 Krell ships were destroyed. The human ships vanished again, jumping away before Krell reinforcements could arrive. In his command center on the Krell homeworld, Supreme Commander Voth read the report 3 times. "Humans? That's impossible. We destroyed them 400 years ago. The attacking ships use technology we've never seen," his intelligence officer reported. "Their faster-than-light system doesn't use jump gates. They can appear anywhere without warning. How many ships do they have?" "Unknown, sir. They attacked and left before we could assess their numbers." Voth felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Fear. Find them. Use every resource we have. Find where they're hiding and destroy them. But that was the problem. The humans weren't hiding in one place anymore. Over the next month, Krell assets across 3 sectors came under attack. A garrison world lost contact. A supply convoy vanished. Mining stations went silent. Each time Krell reinforcements arrived to find wreckage and no sign of the attackers. The Krell tried to track the human ships. Their sensors picked up nothing. The humans would appear, strike, and vanish like ghosts. On Haven, Martin coordinated the attacks from a command center his grandmother had designed. Holographic displays showed the entire galaxy, with markers indicating every human colony and every Krell target. Strike Team 7 reports success at the mining station, an officer announced. All targets destroyed, no casualties. Strike Team 3 is engaging the garrison at Krell Position 472, another officer added. Martin watched the displays. 47 human colonies were now working together, sharing intelligence and coordinating attacks. Each colony contributed ships, pilots, resources. Together they were something the Krell had never faced before. A distributed enemy. An enemy that was everywhere and nowhere. "Sir, Krell reinforcements are moving towards Sector 12, someone warned. Martin smiled. "Let them. By the time they get there, we'll be hitting Sector 9. On Defiance Station, Jake watched ships launch in waves. The station could now produce 5 warships a week. Other colonies had their own shipyards doing the same. Humanity's fleet was growing every day. Megan led her fighter squadron out on their 3rd mission this month. She was good at this, better than she'd expected. The Krell flew in formations designed for fighting other Krell. They weren't prepared for the tactics humans used. Her squadron would jump in close, too close for capital ship weapons to target effectively. They'd strike at engines and weapon systems, crippling ships without destroying them. Then they'd jump away before the Krell could organize a response. "Target the lead cruiser," Megan ordered her squadron. "Hit the engines, then scatter. Don't give them a chance to lock on." The fighters dove in, fired, and vanished. The Krell cruiser drifted, powerless, while the rest of the Krell fleet tried to find targets that were no longer there. On the jungle world, the warriors that Holly had trained were finally seeing action. They couldn't build ships or high technology, but they contributed in other ways. Small teams infiltrated Krell garrison worlds, gathering intelligence, sabotaging equipment, creating chaos. A young warrior named Troy crouched in shadows on a Krell military base. He'd spent 2 weeks getting to this position. Now he placed small explosive charges on fuel storage tanks. The charges were simple, primitive by galactic standards. But they worked. Troy triggered the charges remotely from 5 kilometers away. The explosion destroyed enough fuel to ground the Krell fleet in this sector for 3 weeks. By the time Krell security investigated, Troy was already off-world, heading to his next target. The attacks continued for months. The Krell tried everything to stop them. They increased patrols. They improved sensor networks. They fortified defensive positions. Nothing worked. The humans were too mobile, too unpredictable. Every time the Krell reinforced one area, humans attacked somewhere else. "We need a new strategy," Voth told his council. "We can't defend everything at once." "Perhaps we should try diplomacy," one counselor suggested. "Open negotiations with the humans." Voth's mandibles clicked angrily. "Negotiate? With the species we crushed 400 years ago? That would show weakness. Then what do you suggest? We find their main base, wherever they're coordinating from. We destroy it like we destroyed Earth." But the Krell couldn't find a main base because there wasn't one. The human colonies operated independently, coordinating through secure networks but maintaining no central command. Destroying one colony wouldn't stop the others. 6 months into the war, the Krell had lost over 300 ships and dozens of installations. They destroyed only 17 human vessels in return. The exchange rate was devastating. Worse, other species under Krell control were noticing. If humanity could fight back successfully, maybe they could too. On Haven, Martin received a strange message. It came from the Galactic Council, the same organization that had abandoned humanity 400 years ago. "They want to talk," Martin told his council. "They're offering to mediate between us and the Krell." The Haven Council members looked at each other. Finally, one asked, "What do we tell them?" Martin thought about his grandmother, about Admiral Frank Cooper, about Daniel Hayes and Kate Morrison and all the humans who died when the Galactic Council did nothing. Tell them we don't need their help anymore. Tell them humanity learned to stand alone. The war entered a new phase. The Krell began evacuating non-essential positions, consolidating their forces around core territories. They were going defensive, trying to protect what they had rather than hunting for human bases. It was exactly what Martin wanted. "Now we hit the colonies," Martin announced. "The Krell-occupied worlds where humans still live." For 400 years, some human populations had survived under Krell occupation. They'd endured as second-class citizens, waiting and hoping for rescue that never came. Now rescue arrived. Eric was one of the freed humans. He'd lived his whole life on a Krell garrison world, working in factories following their rules. When he was young, his grandmother told him stories about free humanity. He'd thought they were just fairy tales. Then human warships appeared in orbit. The garrison tried to fight. They lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, human soldiers came down to the surface. "You're free," they told Eric and thousands like him. "Come with us. We're taking you home." "Home where?" Eric asked. "Earth is destroyed." The soldiers smiled. "We built new homes. Lots of them. You can choose where to go. Haven, Defiance, New Hope, Liberty Station. We have 47 colonies now. Pick one." Eric started crying. He'd never thought he'd see this day. None of the occupied humans had. Across Krell space, the same scene repeated. Human fleets liberated occupied colonies, evacuating populations before Krell reinforcements arrived. Millions of humans who'd spent generations under Krell rule suddenly found themselves free and angry. "We want to fight," Eric told the soldiers who rescued him. "Teach us how. Give us weapons. Let us help." The freed humans were trained quickly and integrated into the war effort. They knew Krell systems, Krell tactics, Krell weaknesses. Their intelligence was invaluable. The war turned into an avalanche. More ships. More attacks. More colonies freed. The Krell tried to hold the line, but the line kept breaking. On the Krell homeworld, Voth watched his empire crumble. 400 years of Dominion control was unraveling in less than a year. "How many human ships are there?" he demanded. "Our best estimate is over 2,000, his intelligence officer replied. "But they might have more. We can't track them all." 2,000? Where did they get 2,000 ships? "They've been building for centuries, sir. While we thought they were dead, they were preparing." Voth felt something that went beyond fear. It was understanding. The Krell had made a mistake 400 years ago. They'd thought scattering humanity would destroy them. Instead, it had made humanity impossible to destroy. "We need to seek terms," Voth said quietly. His council stared at him in shock. "Terms? You mean surrender?" "I mean survival. If we keep fighting, the humans will bleed us dry. They don't need to win big battles. They just need to keep doing what they're doing. Eventually, we'll have nothing left, one counselor protested. But we're the Krell Dominion. We don't surrender to anyone. Voth looked at him coldly. The Dominion is dying. Would you rather die proud or live humbled? Admiral Frank Cooper sat in Earth's orbital command station, reading reports that made his stomach hurt. 63 colony worlds were fighting the Krell. Ships were burning. Cities were destroyed. Humans were dying by the thousands, and they were winning, not winning the war. That was impossible, but they were winning battles. Small victories that shouldn't have been possible. A colony militia destroying a Krell garrison. Civilian ships ramming Krell cruisers. Miners using explosives to blow up patrol vessels. Humanity was fighting back with everything they had. It just wasn't enough. How many ships do we have? Frank asked his officers. Lieutenant Amy Brooks checked her display. 12 warships, sir. That's everything. Earth's entire military fleet. And the Krell? Best estimates say they have 6,000 warships in this sector alone. Maybe more. Frank nodded slowly. The numbers were clear. Even if every human colony united, even if every rebellion succeeded, they couldn't win. The Krell had too many ships, too much technology, too much power. Then we don't fight to win, Frank said quietly. We fight so humanity survives. Amy looked at him. What do you mean, sir? We buy time. We make the Krell pay for every system they take back, and we get as many civilians away as possible. Scatter them into deep space where the Krell can't follow. Scatter them where, sir? Where can they go? Frank pulled up a star chart showing the galaxy. Anywhere, everywhere. We send ships in every direction with orders to run and hide. Some will die, some will get caught, but some will survive. And as long as some humans survive, we haven't lost. The plan went out to every human ship, every colony, every resistance group. Run, hide, survive. Don't try to win. Just try to live. Daniel Hayes got the orders aboard what was left of his cargo ship. The Krell had destroyed most of it 3 days ago, but he'd managed to keep the engines working. Now he had 200 refugees crowded into spaces meant for 50 people. Where do we go? Lisa asked him. She had burns on her arm from the attack. Half their crew was dead. Daniel looked at the star chart. There were millions of stars out there, billions of places to hide. He picked one at random, far away from known space, and set course. That way, he said. We go that way and we don't stop until we find somewhere safe. On Colony 7, Peter Walsh helped civilians board evacuation ships. The Krell were coming back with a full battle group. The colony had maybe 12 hours before the bombardment started. How many ships do we have? Peter asked. 6 transports, someone told him. We can take maybe 3,000 people. The colony had 15,000 people. Peter looked at the crowds trying to get aboard. Parents holding children, old people who could barely walk. Everyone desperate, everyone scared. Load the children first, Peter said. Then pregnant women. Then anyone who has skills we'll need. Engineers, doctors, farmers. What about everyone else? Peter didn't answer. There was no good answer. Some people would escape. Most wouldn't. That was the math of survival. The transports launched just as Krell ships appeared in orbit. Peter stayed behind with 10,000 others. He watched the transports jump to faster than light speed and disappear. At least some would survive. That was something. The Krell bombardment started 5 minutes later. In the asteroid belt, Kate Morrison turned her mining station into a warship. It wasn't pretty and it wasn't military, but it could fight. She loaded mining explosives onto remote-controlled drones and sent them at Krell patrol ships. The drones were slow and easy to see. But Kate had hundreds of them. She'd been making them for weeks, preparing for this fight. The Krell patrol tried to shoot them all down. They got most of them, but not all. 7 Krell ships exploded before they figured out where the attack came from. Then they found Kate's station and destroyed it with one shot from their main guns. Kate and everyone with her died instantly, but the tactic worked. Other mining stations copied it. Across the asteroid fields, humans turned mining equipment into weapons. They couldn't win, but they could hurt the Krell. They could make the Krell pay. Earth's fleet made its last stand near Luna, the moon. Frank Cooper commanded from his flagship, a ship called Unity. It was Earth's largest warship, built back when humans thought they might need to fight in space someday. That someday had come. Enemy fleet approaching, Amy reported. Counting. Sir, it's over 400 ships, Frank nodded. He'd expected this. The Krell wanted to make an example of Earth. They wanted to show what happened to species that fought back. "All ships, this is Admiral Cooper," Frank broadcast to his small fleet. "We're not going to win this fight, but we're going to buy time. Every minute we hold them here is another minute for civilian ships to escape. Make them pay for every second." The 12 human warships moved to meet 400 Krell vessels. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. But Frank's ships fought anyway. Unity took hit after hit. Shields failed. Hull plates melted. Crew members died at their posts. Amy stayed at her station even when fire spread across the bridge, calling out enemy positions until the end. Frank watched his fleet die. One by one, the ships exploded or went dark. Soon only Unity remained, and it was falling apart. The ship was finished. The crew was finished. Earth's fleet was finished. But behind them, beyond the battle, Frank could see hundreds of civilian transports jumping away. Evacuation ships carrying millions of people. Colony ships heading into unknown space. Refugee vessels fleeing in every direction. They were scattering. Just like the plan said. "All hands," Frank announced over the ship's speakers. "Abandon ship. Get to the escape pods." That's an order. Most of the crew was already dead. The few survivors headed for the pods. Amy grabbed Frank's arm. "Sir, you need to go too." Frank shook his head. "Someone needs to keep the Krell busy a little longer." "Go, Lieutenant. That's an order." Amy wanted to argue, but she was a soldier. She followed orders. She left the bridge. Frank sat in the captain's chair alone. Through the window, he could see the massive Krell dreadnought that had been leading the attack. It was the biggest ship in their fleet, probably the flagship. Frank smiled. He had just enough engine power left for one more move. He aimed Unity directly at the dreadnought and pushed the engines to maximum. The ship lurched forward, accelerating despite the damage. The Krell tried to shoot it down, but Unity was already too close. Frank's ship hit the dreadnought at full speed. The explosion was huge, bright enough to see from Earth's surface. Both ships were destroyed instantly. Frank died, but so did 3,000 Krell. Daniel Hayes watched the battle from far away. His cargo ship was at the edge of the system, ready to jump. He saw Unity explode. He saw the Krell dreadnought go with it. "The Admiral's dead," someone said. "Earth's fleet is gone," someone else added. Daniel looked at his crew and refugees. They were alive. Scared, hurt, but alive. And they were free. "Then we make sure he didn't die for nothing," Daniel said. "Set course. Random heading. We run and we don't look back." Across human space, the same scene repeated thousands of times. Ships jumping to random coordinates. Colonies evacuating in every direction. Refugees scattering into unexplored space. The Krell hunted them for a while. They destroyed many ships. They caught many refugees. But humanity had broken into countless pieces, each fleeing a different way. The Krell couldn't catch them all. After 6 months, the Krell stopped chasing. They'd won the war. Earth was destroyed. The colonies were crushed. Humanity was scattered so widely that they'd never reunite. The Krell declared victory and went back to ruling their territory. Daniel's ship traveled for weeks before finding a safe place to stop. It was a dead system, no planets worth living on, but there was a large asteroid with ice and minerals. They landed on it and started building shelter. "What now?" Lisa asked. Daniel looked at the 200 people they'd saved. Most were civilians. A few were soldiers or engineers. All were exhausted. "Now we survive," Daniel said. "We hide, we build, and we remember what the Krell did. Will we ever go back? I don't know. Maybe our children will. Or their children. But someday humanity will return, and when we do, the Krell will regret what they did." Far away, other human ships were having the same conversations. Each group thought they might be alone. Each believed they might be the last humans alive. They didn't know about each other. They had no way to communicate, but they all shared the same determination. Survive. Remember. Return someday. The Krell had scattered humanity across the galaxy. They thought they'd broken the human species forever. They were wrong. In the darkness between stars, in places the Krell never looked, humanity endured. Small groups on forgotten asteroids, tiny colonies on hidden worlds, ships still running, still searching for safe harbor. They were scattered. They were alone. But they were alive and they were angry. The Krell had won the war. But the Krell didn't understand something important about humans. You could beat them. You could scatter them. You could even kill most of them, but you couldn't make them quit. Somewhere in deep space, a small colony ship finally stopped running. The captain, a woman named Helen who'd been a teacher before the war, looked at her passengers. 300 people, mostly families with children. "We'll land on that moon," Helen said, pointing to a frozen rock orbiting a gas giant. "We'll go underground where sensors can't find us. We'll build a new home, and then what?" someone asked. The cargo ship moved slowly through space, its engines humming with a tired sound. Daniel Hayes stood near the window, watching the stars. He had been a ship captain for 12 years now, moving supplies from one human colony to another. It used to be good work. Not anymore. "Captain, they're coming," Lisa said from behind him. She was his second in command. A good officer who never complained. But her voice was tight now, full of anger she tried to hide. Daniel nodded. He could see the Krell patrol ship approaching. It was bigger than his cargo hauler, covered in dark metal that seemed to swallow light. The Krell always sent their ships to check human vessels. They called it security. Daniel called it theft. The Krell had arrived 17 years ago. They came with promises of protection and friendship. Earth's leaders, scared of war and desperate for allies in the galaxy, had signed treaties. Nobody read the details carefully. Nobody understood what those treaties really meant until it was too late. Now the Krell controlled everything. They decided where humans could go. They took whatever they wanted from human ships and colonies. They called it taxation. Every week it got worse. Daniel watched as the Krell ship pulled alongside. Through his window he could see their boarding tube extending toward his hull. Soon, Krell soldiers would walk through his cargo bay, taking whatever caught their interest. "Third time this week," Lisa said quietly. "They took our medicine last time. And our tools the time before that. What do they want now?" "Whatever they want," Daniel answered. His hands gripped the metal railing in front of him. "They always take whatever they want." The Krell came aboard 15 minutes later. There were 5 of them, tall creatures with 4 arms and faces covered in hard shells. Their eyes were black and cold. They moved through the cargo bay like they owned it. Because legally they did. The lead Krell officer walked up to Daniel. His translator device made clicking sounds before words came out in English. "You carry medical supplies. We need them." "Those supplies are for New Portland Colony," Daniel said, trying to keep his voice calm. "They've been waiting 3 months. People are sick there." The Krell officer tilted his head. "Then they wait longer. We take supplies now." One of the human crew members, a young man named Kevin, stepped forward. "You can't do this. Those are emergency medicines. People will die without them." The Krell officer moved faster than Daniel expected. One of his 4 arms shot out, holding a weapon that glowed with blue light. The weapon hit Kevin across the face. The young man fell hard, blood running from his nose. The Krell officer made a sound that his translator didn't convert. But Daniel recognized it anyway. It was laughter. "Anyone else want to speak?" the Krell asked. Nobody answered. The Krell soldiers loaded the medical supplies onto their ship and left. Kevin sat on the floor, holding his bleeding face. Lisa helped him up while Daniel stared out the window, watching the Krell ship fly away. This was life now. This was what humanity had become. Far away on a planet called Colony 7, Governor Peter Walsh faced his own problems. Krell soldiers were marching through the streets of his settlement's main town. They had lists of names, families who supposedly owed money for land use. "You don't understand," Peter told the Krell commander. "These families have lived here for 15 years. They built these homes with their own hands. The land was empty when we arrived." "Land belongs to Krell Dominion," the commander replied. "Humans use land, humans pay. No payment means no land." Peter watched as Krell soldiers pulled a woman named Margaret and her 2 children from their house. Margaret was crying, begging them to let her gather her things. The soldiers ignored her. They threw the family into the street and sealed the door. All down the street the same thing happened. Families dragged from homes. Children crying. Parents trying to protect them and failing. The Krell had decided these people owed debts. It didn't matter if the debts were real. It didn't matter if the amounts were impossible to pay. The Krell made the rules. Peter sent messages to Earth begging for help. Earth's government sent back official complaints to the Galactic Council. Nothing changed. The Galactic Council filed Earth's complaints in some computer somewhere and forgot about them. Humanity had no real power in the galaxy. Everyone knew it. In the Cassandra Belt, an asteroid mining station, a woman named Kate Morrison counted bodies. 3 workers had died this week when their equipment failed. The equipment was old, breaking down, held together with spare parts and hope. It hadn't always been this way. Before the Krell came, the mining stations had good equipment. But the Krell confiscated all the advanced machinery 2 years ago. They said humans didn't need such expensive tools. They gave the humans cheaper replacements that barely worked. Kate looked at the 3 bodies covered in sheets. One was barely 20 years old. He had a wife and baby daughter waiting for him on Europa Station. How do I tell her? Kate asked herself. How do I explain that her husband died because the Krell took our safety equipment? Nobody answered. In the cold, empty mining station, nobody had answers anymore. For 17 years, this continued. Humans tried to protest peacefully. They sent official complaints. They followed proper procedures. Nothing worked. The Galactic Council didn't care. Other alien species didn't want to anger the powerful Krell. Earth's military was too weak to fight back. Humanity learned to keep their heads down. They learned to accept injustice. They learned that fighting back meant death, but pressure builds when you press down on it. Anger grows when you feed it, and eventually something breaks. On a hot afternoon on Harmony Ridge Colony, a merchant named Greg Fuller set up his market stall like always. He sold basic supplies, food, tools, simple things colonists needed. He had all the proper licenses. He followed all the rules, but rules changed when the Krell felt like changing them. A Krell patrol walked through the market. Their leader, an officer with scars on his shell, stopped at Greg's stall. He picked up items, examining them with his 4 hands. "Where is permit for these goods?" the officer asked. Greg pulled out his documents. "Right here. Everything is legal." The Krell officer looked at the papers for a moment. Then he tore them up. "Wrong permit. You need Form 73. This is Form 72. But last week you said I needed Form 72. Greg protested. "I paid for this permit yesterday. Rules change. You break rules, come." Greg's daughter, a girl of 15 named Sophie, grabbed her father's arm. "Please, he didn't do anything wrong. He has the permits you told him to get." The Krell officer pushed Sophie away. She fell into the dirt. Then he grabbed Greg and dragged him into the middle of the market square. A crowd gathered. They always gathered when the Krell punished someone. The Krell liked making examples of people. The officer began hitting Greg. Not with weapons, just with his hard armored fists. Greg fell. The officer kept hitting him. Sophie screamed for help. The crowd watched, frozen, too scared to move. This happened all the time now. Everyone had seen it before. Everyone knew that interfering meant you would be next. But something was different today. Maybe it was the heat. Maybe it was the sound of Sophie crying. Maybe it was 17 years of anger and fear and helplessness finally reaching a breaking point. Someone in the crowd picked up a rock. They threw it. The rock hit the Krell officer in the back of his head. He stopped hitting Greg and turned around trying to see who threw it. Another rock flew. Then another. Then 10 more. The crowd surged forward, no longer frozen, no longer scared. Years of rage erupted all at once. The Krell patrol tried to fight back. They had weapons and armor. But there were 5 of them and 200 humans. Numbers 1. When it was over, all 5 Krell soldiers lay dead in the market square. The crowd stood there breathing hard, looking at what they had done. For the first time in 17 years, humans had fought back. For the first time in 17 years, humans had won. Sophie helped her father to his feet. Greg looked at the dead Krell soldiers, then at the crowd around him. Everyone knew what this meant. Everyone knew the Krell would come back with more soldiers, with ships with overwhelming force. "We should run," someone in the crowd said. "Where?" someone else asked. "Where can we run that they won't find us?" "Then we fight," Greg said, his voice rough from screaming. "We fight because we have nothing left to lose." The crowd agreed. Word spread through the colony. Within hours, every human on Harmony Ridge was preparing for war. They broke into the Krell garrison, taking weapons and supplies. They sent messages to other colonies telling them what happened, and across human space, on dozens of worlds, people heard the news. They heard that someone finally fought back. They heard that it was possible to win. The revolution began.